Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carolyn. I am a mama to twin baby girls named Summer and Winter, and I want to share a little bit about my birth plan when we were choosing how I wanted to give birth to my twins. For the majority of my pregnancy, my twins were in very interesting positions. Baby A was head down and baby B was up here head up with her head basically by my ribs. So they were kind of like yin and yang. And honestly, it gave us a lot of different things to talk about because obviously, the dream would be to have them both naturally. However, with twins, there are definitely a lot of different things that we took into consideration as far as risks. And I spoke to so many different doctors and just got different opinions and kind of got to hear a whole bunch of different ways to look at it. And basically, the thing is, we ended up talking to another twin mom. And this twin mom actually told me that her twins were in the same position as my twins when she was pregnant. And she ended up birthing baby A the natural way. And then they tried to turn baby B to face head down. And the baby did not want to turn. She also said it was extremely painful for her. And I've heard that flipping a baby around can be really painful. And then she actually told me that they lost the heartbeat, but the baby was fine. With that said, though, because of how that went, they had to go into an emergency C-section. And this friend of mine, ended up having to have one baby naturally and the other baby C-section. And emergency C-section is no fun for anybody based on all the stories that I've heard. So that was a huge part of me considering whether we should try to have our babies naturally and go through that same process of turning baby B if baby A is born that way, and try to go for having them both the same way, or if I should have been concerned about having to go into an emergency C-section. Basically, the most important thing for me was to not have both of those. And I said, you know what, I'm fine with having the babies either way, whether it be vaginally or whether it be C-section. And I just said, I don't want to do more than one of those ways. I'm only opening one door. That's it. Just one. So that was actually the big thing that made the most impact. Her story made the most impact on my decision to end up having a planned C-section for the birth of my babies. Now, I did talk to one doctor who actually specifically said these words. She said, "I love breech births." And I was like, oh, well, okay. If I wanted to do a breech birth, I know who to call. I mean, it's reassuring to know that there are doctors out there who actually specialize in those things and want to do it that way. So I guess if that's something that you were interested in doing, or if anybody has thought about that, that is an option. You just have to talk to the right person, because obviously if you're gonna go that route, you want to work with somebody who specializes in that. It definitely was really scary for me though to consider that, because I talked to so many other doctors who said the exact opposite. They said don't have a breech birth, even though the second baby of twins is technically allowed to have a breech birth, versus if you just have one baby, then they won't do it. It's different because it's the second baby versus the first. They would never do it for the first, based on my understanding. But with that said, that was another thing that just kind of geared me into the direction of hearing all of the risks and thinking about, well, I don't want to risk anything with having baby B breech, or what if she didn't want to turn, or what if the same thing happened with that other mom where they lost a heartbeat, we had to go into emergency C-section and then it's all stressful, or even if she tried to come out feet first or something. Of course, there's also different things to think about with like where the umbilical cord is located, and I know so many different babies are born with like the umbilical cord close to their neck or something. I don't know. All of those things can be kind of scary. Well, let me fast forward and tell you how my birth actually went. So we ended up going with a planned C-section at 38 weeks plus 1 day. And that's primarily because the doctors said that with the size of my babies being completely full-size and healthy babies, they didn't want to risk having them in there longer than was necessary. And with twin births, if you birth at 37 weeks, you're considered already full term. And so going 38 weeks is definitely a very good amount of time for twins. It's very rare that people seem to make it that long, and I honestly didn't expect to make it that long. Every single week that went by, I just kept thinking, wow, they're still in there. I'm so thankful. And maybe it's because I'm really tall. I don't know if that had something to do with it. I also had my hospital bag packed at 28 weeks just in case, but I never needed to use the emergency bag because on the day of my 38-week mark plus 1 day, so the next day, I woke up that morning and felt still pretty much just normal. I didn't have contractions or anything like that. And I just thought, okay, I'm having my babies today. That's wild, right? But what's cool about that is I did have a very smooth birth, and I've got an entire video just about that if you'd like to hear how my birth went. But the bottom line is I'm glad that we chose to do a C-section instead of trying to have baby A naturally and then trying to turn baby B, because what really ultimately happened is after the doctor delivered my first baby in my C-section, my second baby, my baby B, Summer, her feet literally came right out of the incision, and he said that he, in his like 25 years of delivering babies, had never seen twins come out that close to another, and said that if I would have tried to go naturally, baby B definitely would have been trying to come out feet first. Like, she was ready to go. And it very well could have happened that I would have needed to go into an emergency C-section because of not being able to have her feet first, because of obvious reasons and all the risks associated with that. So I'm just really thankful that we did choose to do a C-section, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a C-section. In fact, I recovered very quickly, and I'm really thankful for how the process went. We spent 4 days in the hospital, and it was actually really nice to be in the hospital for the full duration of the time that we were allowed to be there, which was 4 nights, and just have all the help from the nurses. And you know, when you have 2 babies in your room with you while you're recovering from a substantial birth or surgery, it's really important to have all the hands that you can. And so even though this was basically right before COVID started, we were just so thankful for all the help that we were able to have there. And I mean, gosh, there were times when my husband was trying to do all the things on his own and would ask me to push the button to have one of the nurses come help. And I mean, they were so delighted to help us, and it was just the best case scenario. Then once we got home, I was already at the point where I could do a whole lot of things. I could walk just fine. I could carry my babies up the stairs, which maybe I wasn't supposed to do, but I did anyway. And then I was like fully mobile and taking walks around my neighborhood within the first week of being home. And you know, it just continues to get better and better. But I feel like I've heard so many different people saying that they weren't sure about how their recovery would be from a C-section. And I've just heard of many different stories, both successful and less successful, of having both types of births. So whether it's 1 baby or 2 babies, I just wanted to share my story with you in case you're in a similar circumstance or you're just kind of learning about the topic and how this works. Another thing that I will add about my general birth plan creation is before we decided to do a C-section, originally when I was going to try to go for having them naturally, I was coming up with all the details of the plan. Like, I wanted to have music playing. I had a whole playlist that I had come up with on my phone of like songs that were preparing me for the push and then songs for the push. Like, I had it all organized and figured out. I even had like scents and lotions that I had picked out that I really enjoyed, that I thought might put me in a good mood or something during that entire process. They even have options for if you want to have candles or if you want to have the lights dimmed or anything like that, who you want in the room with you. The one other thing that I had to consider because I was having twins is that once the push starts, it would have had to be in the operating room, just like a C-section, in case of the need to go into an emergency C-section for the baby B. And so that's one thing that I did have to take into account when planning my birth plan, was even if I wanted to try to have them naturally, I would have only been able to have one person, of course my husband, with me in the operating room. And that's just very interesting to think about. If you're the kind of person that wants to have your mom and your sister or your brother, your family, your best friend, any of those people with you, it's just interesting to know that if you're having twins, C-sections, you are required to do it in the operating room, and you only get one person to be there with you. So I'm just really thankful again that it went so smoothly and that my husband got to be there for the whole thing and hold my hand, and it was just very beautiful, and I'm so thankful to be a twin mom. I hope that my story can help somebody, and if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer in the comments below this video. Let me know any other video ideas that you guys have, if you'd like for me to share more about my twin pregnancy or twin birth or just life with twins in general. Thank you so much, guys. As always, like this video if you enjoyed it, and definitely click the subscribe button to see more of my twin mom journey and family travel tips, because we love to travel with our twins. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.